So good morning. So we will continue our discussion from yesterday. So till now what we have discussed is in the finite volume method what we have discussed about simple diffusion problem, 1D diffusion with source term, how to discretize this 1D diffusion with source term. Okay. Then how to treat the different aspects of this equation. For example, how to treat the thermal conductivity, how to linearize the source term, and how to calculate the interface uh, values. So how to interpolate and find the interface fluxes. So based on this, we should be able to solve or discretize any 1D diffusion type of problem, even if there is any source term, non-linear source term also. Okay. So now today what we are going to do is we are going to add one more additional term, which is the unsteady term, to the equation, and then we are going to see what is the finite volume representation of the discretized equation for this case. So we are going to consider unsteady one-dimensional conduction, okay, as shown here, which is which is written as rho Cp dou t equal to dou x of k dou t dou x plus Sc plus Spt. Okay, in the full form, including the linearized source term. We already know that we can linearize any source term in terms of Sc and Sp as discussed yesterday. So even if the source term is non-linear, we are going to put it in a linear form with old values in Sc and Sp. Okay, so that we can solve it in an iterative method. So now this part is actually not difficult. We have already discussed during finite difference equations that whenever there is a unsteady problem, there are different methods of solving it, like explicit method, implicit method, or semi-implicit method, and we have to decide which method we are going to use. For example, explicit method has certain advantages. So for explicit method, the formulation actually is easy. However, there are issues with stability for the explicit method, so we have to take a small time step. All these are there in the notes which we have previously discussed, and it was there in your midterm also. And similarly for implicit method, we can take larger time steps, and however the formulation is difficult and the solution of equations is difficult because you have to solve all the equations together. In the explicit method, we can just solve in a time marching manner. Okay. What was the main difference between explicit and implicit method? Main difference was that for all the other terms except this unsteady term, for all the other terms, how to take the temperature values, whether you are going to, because the temperature is now changing from one time step to the next time step, and you are calculating the diffusion terms and source terms, whether you want to calculate this diffusion and source terms with the new temperature value, or whether you want to calculate them with the old temperature value, or whether you want to calculate them with an average temperature value, average of new and old temperature value. That was our concern. So if we consider new temperature values, new unknown temperature values for calculating these diffusion and source terms, then this leads to the fully implicit scheme. Okay, and the T will be unknown here, it will be part of the equation. If we use the old time step values for calculating the diffusion term and the source term, then this T will be known, all the T will be known from the previous time step, and it can be easily calculated. So all the diffusion will be calculated in terms of the old time step values, and this will lead to the fully explicit scheme. Okay, and you can directly solve the equation. And if you want to take an average of the old and new time step value, so say T old plus T new by 2, or TP old plus TP new by 2, then we have something which is known as the Crank-Nicolson method or semi-implicit method. And in that case also, you will have unknown temperature values because of the new temperature terms which are present, and you again will have a set of equations which needs to be solved simultaneously, similar to the fully implicit scheme. And in general also you can divide in any way we have discussed, using some factor like say giving a weightage to how much of the input you want to take from the new time step and how much from the old time step. So if you want to take 70% weightage of the new time step and 30% of the old time step, we can also do like that. And if you revisit your notes, you will find that we have discussed all this. So same concept also holds true for finite volume method, and we are going to see how to proceed with that. Okay. So again, as you know, for finite volume method, we have to integrate over the domain. So in this case, the domain is both the space domain going from west to east. Okay, for the pth control volume, small w to small e is the control volume, and also the time domain. Time domain for the time step goes from t to t plus delta t. Okay, this is the time domain for a single time step. So going from west to east, we have to do an integration, and going from t to t plus delta t, we have to do another integration. So we are going both along the space domain and time domain. Okay. So rho Cp, assuming that they are constant, we can take them out. Then these two integrals of dou t dt dx equal to integral of time from t to t plus delta t and space from w to e of del x k delta t del t del x dx dt. So the diffusive term, and then similarly the integral of the source term. Okay, from the time integral from t to delta t, t plus delta t, and the space integral from small w to small e of sc plus spt. Obviously, the grid structure also is similar to what we already know. So I will just reiterate once. So the pth control volume goes from small w to small e and has a width of delta x, and the adjacent neighbors are east neighbor and west neighbor, denoted by capital A and capital W. The distance between the neighboring grid points is delta xc on the east side and delta xw on the west side. Okay. So I'm going to keep this open on the other slide also. The unsteady equation. Okay. We can refer to this. So integrating over this equation over the space domain. So for this integration, we will assume that because this t is for this only for this pth control volume, the t is equal to Tp. Okay. So Tp new minus Tp old by delta t. Okay. Because we are integrating, so Tp new by Tp old, this delta t actually gets cancelled. Tp new is represented here by Tp1. So 1 means the new value and 0 means the old value. So Tp1 minus Tpo 0 into delta x. Delta x comes because of the integral in the space direction into rho Cp. Okay. So this is the integral of the first term. Rho Cp delta x Tp1 minus Tp0. Similarly, for the diffusive term, only by integrating over the space we can do what we have done previously. So it will lead to Ke Te minus Tp by delta Xc minus Kw Tp minus Tw by delta Xw. So integral of this from t to t plus delta t dt. Okay. So this part for the space integral, we have assumed again that there is linear variation of temperature between the grid points. Okay, same as what we have done previously for our diffusive problems. This part is exactly same as the diffusive problem. Only thing is that now we have an integral from time t to t plus delta t, and that actually raises the question: how should we evaluate the time integral, so that what will be the values of Te, Tp and Tw, whether this will be new values, old values, or intermediate values. Same thing for the source term also, integration over time. Then if you integrate over space, you are left with Sc into delta x plus Sp Tp delta x. Okay, because we are assuming that Sc and Sp Tp are constant over the entire domain. Okay, not domain, sorry, over the entire control volume. So into dt. Any questions? So Tp varies from time t to t plus delta t, as we have already discussed. Okay. And we have also discussed this explicit, implicit, or Crank-Nicolson schemes. Crank-Nicolson is the semi-implicit scheme. Assume different types of variation. How to take this T, Tp, and Tw. If we assume fully explicit, we will only take T0 minus Tp0, and here Tp0 minus Tw0. If we take fully implicit, we will take T1 minus Tp1, and here Tp1 minus Tp1 minus Tw1. Okay. And for Crank-Nicolson, we have to take 50% average. So half of T0 plus half of T1 minus half of Tp0 minus half of Tp1, like this. Okay. So in general, if we use a weight factor f, where f goes from 0 to 1, we can write the integral t to del t plus delta t Tp dt as f into Tp1 plus 1 minus f into Tp0 into delta t, where f is the weight factor leaning towards the current time step value. If f is equal to 1, we get fully implicit scheme. If f equal to 0, we get explicit scheme. F equal to 0.5 gives us the Crank-Nicolson scheme. But f can vary between 0 and 1. Okay, it can assume any value. So integral of t to t plus delta t Tp dt is equal to f Tp1 minus plus 1 minus f Tp0 into delta t. Okay. And now we can use this. We can use this and replace this integrals. Okay. So these integrals are open here. It will be very small for you to see, but those of you who are using laptops will be able to see it. Okay. Just keep it open for reference. So first term is rho Cp delta x. Okay. So this delta t from the other side we have brought to the left side. So rho Cp delta x by delta t. Delta t was on the other side. We have brought to the left side. Okay. Tp1 minus Tp0. So this is the same term. Only thing is that the delta t has been brought from the other side. Equal to, so f into all the new values. So f into Ke T1 minus Tp1 by delta xc minus Kw Tp1 minus Tw1 by delta xw. Same thing, but with the new values. Okay. Plus 1 minus f into all the old values. Ke T0 minus Tp0 by delta xc minus Kw Tp0 minus Tw0 by delta xw. Okay. Plus Sc into delta x. So actually, if you integrate this, it will be Sc into delta x into delta t. We have already taken the delta t to the other side. That's why we are left with Sc into delta x. And this SPTP delta x dt, again this Tp also is varying over the time, so that also needs to be taken into account. So that integral also leads to f into SPTP1 delta x plus 1 minus f SPTP0 delta x, whole thing multiplied by delta t we have taken to the other side. So we are left with f into SPTP1 delta x plus 1 minus f SPTP0 into delta x. Okay. So this is the discretized equation. Now we can rearrange the terms. We can take all the, so what are the unknown terms? All the 1 terms are unknown. Tp1, T1 and Tw1 are unknown. Tp0, Te0 and Tw0 are known. All the 0 terms are known because they are from the previous time step value, and previous time step values are known. Okay, for solving this time at this time step. So if you accumulate all the terms together, okay, if you accumulate all the terms together, you will have APTP. So we'll come to what is AP. Okay. So APTP is equal to AE. AE you can take as Ke by delta Xc. Okay. AE. So Ke by delta Xc, we have two terms, right? One is F into T1 and one term is 1 minus F into T0. Okay. For Ke by delta Xc. So F into T1. So writing all the one terms as means normally, because these are the new terms, I am going to replace the dash. We are not going to use the dash or 1. Okay. So ft plus 1 minus f t is 0 Similarly, AW FTW plus 1 minus FTW 0. Okay, by accumulating all the terms with TW. So KW by delta XW, AW is KW by delta XW, FTW plus 1 minus FTW 0, plus all the TP0 terms. TP0 terms are AP0. So AP0 is rho Cp delta X by delta T. Okay, this will come to the other side. Okay, this is a known term. Rho Cp delta X by delta T into TP0 is a known term. It will come to the other side, and this rho Cp delta X by delta T is called as AP0 into 1 minus F A TP0. This comes from this term. Similarly, minus 1 minus F AW TP0, which comes from this term, plus SC into delta X. This comes from this term, plus 1 minus F SP TP0 delta X, which comes from this term. Okay. So we have removed, we are writing the current time step values as TP instead of TP1, and the previous time step values as TP0, which is the standard practice. So A is equal to K by delta XC. I will keep this open here. Okay. This is the discretized equation where A is equal to K by delta XC. AW is KW by delta XW. AP0 I have already told is rho Cp by into delta X by delta T. And AP is F into A plus F into AW plus AP0 minus F SP delta X. Okay. So F into A because of this term, okay, TP1 by delta X. So F into TP1 K by delta XC. So this first term leads to F into A. Similarly, F into W because of this term, and plus AP0 because of this rho Cp delta X by delta T into TP1, this term, minus F SP delta X, which comes from this term, which goes to the other side as a negative value. Okay. So this is AP. So ultimately the equation is still of the form APTP is equal to A into T. This, see, this whatever is the extra part T is 0. This will be known term and will be coupled, can be put together in the B or the source term. So AW into TW or some coefficient into TW, AWF into TW, plus again this known term can be put in the source term. So all this together can be put in the source term B. So everything can be put together in the B form, and final equation will be something like APTP equal to AE dash T plus AW dash TW plus B. Okay, which is the same. Ultimately, it is of the same form as the previous equation, and we can use our same algorithms like TDMA or any of the other matrix inversion processes for solving this equation, set of equations. So if we have n equations and n unknowns, we can solve them simultaneously to get the results. Only thing is that the values of AP, AE, and W and all this will be different. Okay, AW, AE dash will be AE into F. Similarly, AW dash will be AW into F, and all this source term B also will be quite different. But these all can be calculated based on known values, and ultimately you have to just supply them to the solver, DMS solver, for solving this equation. So the process is again similar. It's only how you are setting up the coefficients. So whenever we write a code, we generally divide it into two parts. One part is for setting up the coefficients of the equations, discretized equation, and second part is to supply these coefficients to the solver. Solver can be like a TDMA solver or like a Gaussian elimination solver or something like that. And we supply these coefficients for each of the grid points to the solver and solve all the equations simultaneously. Okay. So it is divided into two parts. So what we are seeing is that the solver part remains similar, but the calculation of the coefficients is changing whenever we are changing the equation. We are going for more complex equation like adding the source term. Calculation of the coefficients is changing. If we are adding one more term like the unsteady term, calculation of the coefficient is changing like this. Okay. Use explicit scheme, then you have to put f equal to 0. and you can try to do that as a practice problem, and then you will not have any set of equation. Directly you can solve the right hand side, because all the values on the right hand side will be known and only one unknown will be there corresponding to TP1. Everything else will be known and directly it can be solved. Fully implicit is f equal to 1 and Crank-Nicolson is f equal to 0.5 as we have already discussed. Okay. Any questions? So if we consider one explicit scheme, okay, just as an example problem, let us ignore the source term, okay, because we already know how to treat the source term. So let us ignore it. Explicit 1D heat conduction. Rho Cp dou T equal to dou x of K dou T dou x. Okay. For explicit scheme, F equal to 0 and AP is equal to, so let me keep this open on this side, okay. AP is equal to AP0 already, we know that, okay. Because what will happen is that for explicit scheme, all the right hand side terms will be having old time values, okay, old time values for the temperature. So the only new value for the temperature corresponding to AP will be rho Cp delta x by delta T into Tp1, okay. So which is basically AP0 into Tp1. So that's why AP is equal to AP0. You think about it. So the only new temperature value is rho Cp delta x by delta T into Tp1. So because rho Cp delta x by delta T is AP0, we can write this as AP0 into Tp1. AP is equal to AP0 basically. So APTP is equal to AET0, which is a known value, plus AWTW0 plus AP0 minus AE minus AWTP0. Okay. This can be found from this if you just simplify this and put F equal to 0. Directly also it can be found if you put F equal to 0. So this term vanishes. You are left with this term and this term also vanishes. You are left with first and last terms. Okay. So for all the coefficients to be positive, this for the final coefficient AP0 minus AE minus AW needs to be greater than 0. Okay. All the other coefficients are positive. So if this coefficient has to be positive, this needs to be greater than 0. If by chance this is negative, then what can happen? Again, an increase in the previous time step temperature can lead to a decrease in the current time step temperature, which is unphysical. So if for any reason the previous time step temperature was higher, the current time step temperature should also be higher. Why should it decrease? Okay. So it does not make any sense because there is no source term also. So this term should be positive. And to make it positive, AP0 minus AE minus AW has to be greater than 0. Okay. Or AP0 has to be greater than AE plus AW. Okay. If we assume that K is constant, so that KE is equal to KW equal to K, and also delta x, grid spacing is constant, delta x equal to delta xc is equal to delta xw. We can write this AP0 as rho Cp delta x by delta t. AE is Ke by delta x, so we can write this as K by delta x. Similarly, AW is Kw by delta xw, we can write that also as K by delta x. Okay. So rho Cp delta x by delta t should be greater than K by delta x plus K by delta x. Or rho Cp delta x by delta t should be greater than 2K by delta x. Okay. Or delta t, if you rearrange this, delta t should be less than rho Cp delta x square by 2K. So this is the condition for stability. Okay. I don't remember, I think we have discussed about this briefly, that for explicit method, we need to satisfy a maximum time step condition. The time step cannot be larger than that. So the time step has to be less than a certain value, otherwise the solution can diverge. Okay. So this is the condition which needs to be satisfied. and this delta t is actually proportional to delta x square. Okay, so if you reduce the grid spacing by 2 times, your time step has to reduce by 4 times to maintain stability. I think we have discussed this already. It will be there in the recorded lectures. We have also discussed about some problems like if you change the grid spacing by 10 times, you have to change the time step by 100 times, and you can imagine how long it will take for the solution to occur. So that is the main problem with the explicit scheme, that if you want to take very fine grids, your time step becomes so small that the problem takes a huge time to run. Okay. So if you have some problem where there are some regions where you need very fine grid structure, like you want to resolve a very small gap is there and you want to resolve the flow in that gap or the heat transfer in that gap. Other regions are large, but there is a very small gap. Okay, like say uh, thin film or very adjacent fins are there, and there are small gaps in between the fins. Okay, and we want to resolve that. So in those cases, what can happen is that your delta x will have to be taken very small, otherwise you will not be able to resolve the heat transfer correctly. And if you want to calculate the heat transfer correctly and take delta x very small, your delta t will decrease proportionally to the square of delta x. So it will become so small that the simulation time will become very large. So in those cases, it is better to have implicit method. Okay. In other cases where you don't need to take very small delta x, then explicit method will be better because it is quicker to solve a single time step using explicit method. Because in implicit method, you need to do a matrix inversion or use TDMA to solve the equation simultaneously. In explicit method, you don't need simultaneous solution. You can solve the equations one by one directly. It is much faster. So single time step is faster for the explicit method, but you may need very large number of time step if the grid spacing is small. Okay, like this we have to think. Questions? So similarly, you can see what will happen, what will be the, so I have shown for the general case, what is the discretized equation. I am leaving it as an exercise for you to try the fully implicit scheme and just check what should be the coefficient values. Okay, what is this? What is the equation? Discretized equation. APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus B. So what are the values of FE, AE, AW and B for the fully implicit scheme? Similarly, for the 2D also, I am going to leave it as an exercise, but I will just give a introduction of what will be the grid structure for the 2D problem. Okay, and then you can try to derive the discretized equation using the same process that we have tried. Okay, so for 2D, is there any questions on the 1D method? I assume there are no questions. It is totally silent. So for 2D, we have a two-dimensional control volume. Okay, like a square or a rectangle, and it is again represented by the grid point P at the center. Let me. It is represented by the grid point P at the center, and this control volume now extends from small w on the west side to small e in the east side, and small s on the south side to small n on the north side. Okay, so this is the rectangular control volume. Okay, and our neighboring points are the east point capital E, west point capital W, north point capital N, and south point capital S. Okay. Similarly, we can define the distances. The control volume size is delta x, capital delta x, along the x direction from small w to small e, and delta y along the vertical direction from small s to small n. Okay, and the spacing between the grid points is delta xc, small delta xc, between p and d, delta xw between w and p, delta yn, because this is the y direction, so delta yn between P and N, and delta ys between P and S. Okay. So vertical direction is the y direction, y axis direction, and horizontal direction is the x direction. Okay. In a Cartesian coordinate system. And our 1D equation now, because we also know how to treat the unsteady term. So it is the general 1D equation, unsteady diffusion with source term. Only thing left is the convective term, which we'll start discussing about in the next chapter, starting from the next class. Okay. So for this two-dimensional unsteady heat conduction equation with source term, the governing equation looks like this: rho Cp del T del T equal to del del x of k del T del x plus del del y of k del T del y plus S. Okay. So you have two diffusive terms because of the two-dimensional nature of the problem. So if you do the discretization using finite volume method, it will lead you to this form of the equation: APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus ANTN plus ASTS. Okay, because now we have four neighbors, we have four values here. Okay, all the neighboring values and their coefficients. So remember that we had discussed initially that APTP will be summation of over all the neighboring points of A and B, T and B. Here there are four neighboring points, so summation of over those four neighboring points of A and B, T and B, which is equal to AET plus AWTW plus ANTN plus ASTS, plus whatever extra is there is put in the source term B. Okay, and the only difference will be that A now has the delta y terms because the flux is now, so say the flux along the east face, it was previously Ke delta Xc into T minus Tp. Okay, now it has become like into Tp minus T. So now it has become K delta Xc, K by delta Xc, Tp minus T into this length, into this height, okay, into the delta y. Because now we have an area of the interface. Previously the area was not there because it was a 1D problem. Now we have an area. So that's why this delta y terms comes into picture. Similarly, all the other terms can be derived. So again, I will leave with this as an exercise for you to practice. Okay. So instead of again solving the entire thing, so that you know how to calculate this. So the correct values are given here: A equal to K delta y by delta Xc, AW is equal to KW delta y by delta XW. Similarly, AN and AS. Okay. AP0 is rho Cp delta x by delta x delta y by delta T, and B is SC delta x delta y plus AP0 TP0. AP you can calculate as AE plus AW plus AN plus AS plus AP0 minus SP delta x delta y. So all this it can be found using the same method that we have done for the 1D problem as we have done it today. So please try to solve this and see whether you are getting these coefficients. Okay. So I am leaving it as a exercise problem. This is the same page again. Just scan twice. Okay. So try as an exercise problem this one. So we'll finish this chapter with a discussion on a small topic, which is also important. So which is on relaxation criteria. Okay, we will discuss what is this relaxation criteria. Not criteria actually, relaxation factor. What is this relaxation factor and what is its use? And then we will move on to the next chapter, which is on convection diffusion problems. And we'll start that in the next class. Any questions? Today class is very silent. This is the morning class, so everyone is still in hibernation mode. They're still there, huh? Seems you are there. Okay. So this, what is this relaxation thing. Okay. So while solving the equation, it sometimes we can decide to increase the rate of convergence. Okay. Means whatever is the rate of convergence given by the normal solution method, we can try to increase it further. Okay. Or we may try to decrease the rate of convergence. Okay. If we want to increase the rate of convergence, we use a factor which is known as over relaxation factor. And if we want to decrease the rate of convergence, we use a factor which is known as under relaxation factor. I will come to these factors, but let me explain first what are these things. Okay. Now, in general, we do not use much this over relaxation factor, okay, because this may lead to divergence. But we often use, and almost in all cases, we use an under relaxation factor to slow down the convergence. Why this is required? Because if you have a very nonlinear type of problem, okay, nonlinear equations, like the momentum equation is there or some nonlinear source terms are present. In those cases, within a single time step, if there is a large change occurring, then the value can drastically go towards the other direction. It can oscillate and then the value can blow up, means the solution can diverge. So instead of going towards the value predicted by the solution in one time step, we go partly towards that value. Say after a calculation, we have the initial temperature at a point as 100 degrees centigrade, and in the next time step after calculation it leads to 200 degrees centigrade. Okay. Instead of taking that 200 degrees centigrade value, we can assume that we are taking a relaxation factor of 0.6. Okay. So that means under relaxation factor of 0.6, so that we are going towards 0.6 towards the correct direction instead of fully towards the correct direction. So then what will happen? Our change initially was 100 degrees centigrade from 100 to 200. But instead of that 100 degree, we will just go 0.6 into 100 degree. So instead of 200, our next iteration value will be 160, not 200, 160. Okay. Because we are using an iterative method, this is only valid for iterative method. Okay. Whenever you are using an iterative method, ultimately you will reach the correct value, but the number of iterations will increase because we are going slowly towards the correct solution. Even we can take a smaller under relaxation. Say if I take 0.1. So instead of going towards 200, I can just go towards 110. And like this, small steps can be taken to go towards the correct solution. So it will slow down the convergence. But why will it speed up or not speed up? Why will it increase the chances of convergence? Because say your correct value is 120. Okay. But because of non-linearity, in a single time step, the value goes from 100 to 200. So you are actually going further away from the correct value. So your initial difference was 20 degree. Now your next difference is 80 degree. Now after the next calculation, the solution may go even further away. So after the next iteration, it may go to 0 degree centigrade. Okay. So it is even further away. Like this, the solution will diverge. So if you take under relaxation factor, what would have happened is that you go slightly towards the correct solution. So the chances of overshooting the value is much less. And in that case, the chances of convergence is more. Okay. So let us formally go through this material. So over relaxation is used to speed up I will show you how to use that, but let me just first define these things. Over relaxation is used to speed up convergence. However, the chances of convergence are reduced. Okay. Over relaxation is the opposite thing. You take the relaxation factor more than 1. So instead of 100 degrees centigrade going from 100 to 200, if I take over relaxation of 1.5, I will change by 150 degrees centigrade. So I will go from 100 to 250. So if the correct solution is say somewhere around 1000 degree, I will speed up the solution. But the chances are that the solution will blow up because the correct solution may be very near to the previous value and it will lead to divergence. Okay. However, this is used for Gauss-Seidel method because in Gauss-Seidel method, the convergence rate is very slow. So to increase the chances of convergence, not chances, sorry, rate of convergence, chances and rate are two different things, as we have discussed yesterday. Totally two different things. Okay, rate of convergence can be slow, but the chances of convergence can be more, or rate of convergence can be fast and the chances of convergence can be less. Okay. One denotes how fast you are going towards convergence, other denotes whether you will go towards convergence at all or not. So over relaxation is often used for Gauss-Seidel method. Okay. Under relaxation is used to slow down the convergence but increase the chances of convergence. It is often used for line by line TDMA method, okay, or TDMA method in general. Particularly required for nonlinear problems, as I have discussed. So how to implement this? Let us see. Okay. So if you are using some software like ANSYS and you are facing issue with convergence, there can be many different ways to tackle this. But one of the ways is to decrease the under relaxation factor. I don't know what is the exact term that they are mentioning there. Maybe it is relaxation factor or under relaxation factor. But if you reduce it from 1, so typically it is stated as 1 or 0.8 or 0.9. Okay. For each equation, there will be an under relaxation factor for U velocity, V velocity, pressure equation, then temperature equation. So typically for momentum equations, we can go to lower values, even 0.3, 0.2 also is possible. It will slow down the convergence rate, but increase the chances of convergence. Even we can go up to 0.1, means very low values of under relaxation. So let us take a look at how it is implemented. Okay. So if we have a discretized equation, APTP is equal to summation ANB TNB plus B. Just a second. Okay. This is the generalized discretized equation. So it can be for unsteady problem or whatever is the problem. So after discretization, we get this general form. We already know that any of the equations will lead to this form. APTP is equal to summation of over all the neighboring points ANB TNB plus B. So even we will see later also when we solve for the convection problem that ultimately our equation will be the same equation. Only thing that will change is the coefficient values of AP, ANB and B. Otherwise, the discretized equation will look exactly same. Okay. So TP can be represented as summation ANB TNB plus B by AP. Okay. Remember the TNBs are also unknowns for implicit method, right? So in one iteration, the actual change in the value of TP should be between the change that is occurring from the previous value TP star to the new value TP. Okay. So TP minus TP star is the actual change that is occurring in one iteration. Okay, TP star is the previous iteration value, TP is the current iteration value. So the change is TP minus TP star, and TP we have represented as summation ANB TNB plus B by AP. Okay. So we can write this as this TP as TP star plus TP minus TP star. Okay. We can write this same thing, TP as basically TP star plus TP minus TP star. Okay. So the previous value plus the change that is occurring in the iteration. Previous value was TP star plus that the change that is occurred in this current iteration is TP minus TP star. So this should give us the new value. Okay. So when we use first let me just finish this part. So this TP we can now replace it by summation ANB TNB plus B by AP minus TP star. So this is the change, as I have already discussed. This is the change that is occurring in TP in the current iteration. This is the old value of TP from the previous iteration plus the change that is occurring in the current iteration, which is given with the term which is in the square brackets. So instead of this, if we update the new value like this, TP equal to TP star plus some factor alpha into the change that should have occurred. Okay, some factor alpha into the change that should have occurred. Summation ANB TNB plus B by AP minus TP star. So the entire term within the bracket, this is the actual change that should have occurred, but we are multiplying it by some factor. Okay, alpha. Then we can accelerate or slow down the convergence. We can, if we take alpha to be smaller than 1, we are actually going less distress towards the TP value as dictated by the equation. Okay, so the equation dictates that we should go towards the TP value with this step. Okay, with this step, but we are taking a smaller step. If alpha is say 0.5, we are taking 0.5 of that difference. Okay, so if you take alpha between 0 and 1, this leads to under relaxation and we will slow down the convergence. This will increase the chance of convergence also. If you take alpha is greater than 1, then you are going more, or you are taking a larger difference than what is dictated by your equation. So then it is known as over relaxation. Okay, and this alpha is known as the relaxation factor. Okay, so typically we generally use under relaxation in most of our problems. So we do not use much this over relaxation, but there are some methods which uses over relaxation. Okay, remember that when the iteration converges, TP is equal to TP star, and it does not matter with what value of alpha you have taken, because the converge equation, this difference will anyway become 0, because TP will become equal to TP star theoretically. So ultimately you will have the correct solution, whatever is the value of alpha. So the converged value does not depend on the value of alpha. Only thing is that how you reach that converged value depends on the value of alpha. Okay. So we'll stop here. I have covered the material that I wanted to cover today. Any questions?
No, sir.
From anyone else? Otherwise, we will stop the recording today.